The rain was falling so hard that night, it looked like the entire sky had decided to collapse over the mountains of Colorado. The roads were nearly invisible, and every mile felt like a battle against nature itself. I still remember the moment everything changed. It happened in a tiny roadside hotel when the receptionist looked up from her computer and said there was only one room left. Only one room, and only one bed. The woman standing beside me smiled nervously and said, "Only one bed left. Maybe it's big enough for both of us." I immediately replied that I would take the sofa. At that moment, neither of us knew that this simple decision would become the beginning of a story that would change both our lives forever. Before we continue, take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to the channel if you believe kindness and second chances still matter in this world. My name is Nathan, and at the time I was 34 years. Old life had not been kind to me recently. 2 years earlier, my fiancé had left me without warning. Since then, I had buried myself in work and convinced myself that staying alone was safer than risking another heartbreak. The woman standing beside me that rainy night was named Grace. We were strangers. Earlier that day, our flight from Denver had been canceled because of severe weather. Hundreds of travelers were stranded. Every hotel in the area was full. After hours of waiting and searching, we ended up sharing a rental car with several other passengers trying to find shelter. One by one, everyone found places to stay. Eventually, only Grace and I remained. The last available room in the last available hotel became our only option. The room was small, but clean. There was one large bed near the window and a worn-out sofa near the door. I placed my bag beside the couch and assured Grace she could have the bed. She thanked me, but I noticed sadness in her eyes. Over the next few hours, the storm grew stronger. Thunder shook the building. The electricity flickered several times. We sat near the window talking simply because neither of us could sleep. At first, the conversation was polite and cautious. Then, something changed. Maybe it was the storm. Maybe it was the loneliness we both carried. Or maybe some people are simply meant to meet at the exact moment they need each other most. Grace told me she was traveling to Ohio to see her father. He had been diagnosed with a serious illness, and doctors weren't sure how much time he had left. As she spoke, tears formed in her eyes. She admitted she hadn't spoken to him much during the previous 5 years. A misunderstanding had created distance between them, and neither had found the courage to repair the relationship. Now she feared she was running out of time. I listened quietly. Then I shared my own story. I told her about losing the woman I thought I would marry. I told her how I had stopped trusting people and built walls around my heart. For the first time in years, I spoke honestly about my pain. The hours passed unnoticed. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, 2 strangers slowly became friends. The next morning, the roads were still closed. We were forced to stay another day. Strangely, neither of us seemed upset about it. We spent the day exploring the small mountain town. We drank coffee at a local diner, walked through quiet streets, and shared stories about our families, dreams, failures, and regrets. For the first time in a very long time, I felt alive. Grace had a way of seeing goodness in people. She spoke kindly about everyone she met. Even after everything she had experienced, she still believed people could change. That belief challenged me. I had spent years expecting disappointment. She spent every day looking for hope. Late that afternoon, she received a phone call. The color immediately disappeared from her face. Her father's condition had worsened. Doctors advised the family to come as soon as possible. The roads reopened early the next morning. We left before sunrise. The drive was long and quiet. When we finally reached the hospital, Grace thanked me for helping her get there. Then she hurried inside. I expected that to be the end of our story, but before disappearing through the hospital doors, she turned around and hugged me tightly. It wasn't romantic. It was something deeper. It was gratitude. It was hope. It was 2 broken people reminding each other that they weren't alone. Several weeks passed. Then one evening I received a letter. It was from Grace. She explained that she had arrived just in time. Her father had survived long enough for them to talk, forgive one another, and heal years of pain. She thanked me for encouraging her during the drive. She wrote something I still remember today. She said that storms don't always come to destroy us. Sometimes they force us to stop long enough to find what truly matters. I read that letter 3 times. Then, Zatino Satin Is. I realized she was right. That storm had not ruined my journey. It had changed it. It had shown me that life could still surprise me. It had reminded me that trust was worth risking. Most importantly, it had proven that a single act of kindness can create a chain of events that changes lives forever. Months later, Grace and I met again for coffee, then again and again. The friendship that began in a tiny hotel room grew into something neither of us expected. Not because we were searching for love, but because we had first learned how to care for another person's heart. And sometimes, that is where the strongest relationships begin. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who may need a reminder that hope still exists. Special request: comment below with the words, "Kindness changes lives," if you believe one small act of compassion can make a lasting difference. Years later, whenever people ask how Grace and I met, we smile and tell them about a terrible storm, a tiny roadside hotel, and a room with only one bed. Most people laugh at the story. But what they don't understand is that the bed was never the important part. The important part was the choice. The choice to respect each other. The choice to listen. The choice to care. Because sometimes the greatest love stories don't begin with romance. Sometimes they begin with simple kindness during the darkest storm of someone's life. And that is exactly what happened to us.